Anadol Turkey 1966–1984. Anadol was a car brand of the Turkish group Otosan Otomobil Sanayi. Otokos was the official seller of Ford cars in Turkey since 1946, and in 1954, because the company owner started discussions with Ford to produce a Turkish automobile. In 1959, the Kos Group founded Otosan and started assembling Ford trucks. The first Anadol car was produced since 1966, but sales started only in 1967, as the car was not yet approved by the Chamber of Mechanical Engineering. The first models were designed by Reliant Motors and Ogle Design of the United Kingdom and were built on chassis, engines, and transmissions supplied by Ford. The bodies were all made of fiberglass, as they were inspired by this cheap method during a visit to a Turkish car show, where they were impressed by a fiberglass Israeli car. Models under Anadol brand name have been produced until 1984, but the production of the pickup continued for several years under the Otosan name. Otosan continued assembling and producing Ford models to this day. Series production models. Anadol A1 1966–1975. The first Anadol model was developed by Reliant Motors and designed by Ogle Design for Otosan and went into series production in December 1966 under the Anadol A1 name. It used a Ford-supplied 1,200cc four-cylinder engine, later replaced in 1968 by a larger and more powerful 1,300cc Ford engine. The car had a front independent suspension and leaf spring axle in the rear, with disc brakes for the front and drum brakes for the rear. First years the car had a recirculating ball steering system, but it has been later upgraded to a rack and pinion system. In 1972, the A1 has been revised with a new exterior and an upgraded interior and a more upscale quality in materials and finish. When the production of the A1 ended, over 19,000 units have been produced. The A1 remains in Turkish automotive history as the first official rally car under the Anadol Rally Team and the car that won the first rally in Turkey in 1968. Anadol A2 1970–1981. The second Anadol model was basically a four-door version of the A1 and carried most of its mechanics using the same Ford 1,300cc four-cylinder engine and the same suspension and transmission. It was the first four-door sedan in the world, with a full fiberglass body and the first four-door sedan ever to be produced in Turkey. In 1972, just like the A1, the interior and the exterior of the A2 has been revised, and later in 1975 a new facelift has been made and the name changed to A2 SL. The A2 has been the most commercially successful Anadol model, with more than 35,000 units built, and production ended in 1981 when it has been replaced by the more modern Anadol A816. Anadol P2 Pickup 1971–1982. The Pickup project started in 1970 as a modified Anadol A1 that was used to carry materials for the Anadol factory. A year later, in 1971, the model went into production. It used a 1.2-liter Ford engine, replaced later by a 1.3 and a 1.6. The production ended in 1982 under the Anadol name, but the Pickup model continued to be built by Otosan until 1991, but under Otosan brand name. Anadol A4 SDC16. 1973–1975. The Anadol A4 SDC16 Coupe has been developed starting from the Mark II A1 and A2 series, and it was designed and developed entirely in Turkey, being the first car to do so. Officially presented in 1972, the car has been approved for production by the management and was put into production in 1973. Since it was aimed to be a sports car, it used a larger and more powerful engine than the A2, a 1.6-liter, four-cylinder Ford engine, while the transmission used was the same that could be found in the Ford Capri Coupe. During the few years of production, only 176 units have been sold, as the car was much more expensive than the regular Anadol models. Anadol A5 SV 1600. 1973 to 1982, the A5 design was based on the Reliant Scimitar but with personalized details by Bertoni and Pininfarina. It was not only the first station wagon produced in Turkey but also the first station wagon in the world with a fiberglass body. It used the same 1.6-liter engine as the Anadol STC coupe. Production was stopped in 1982, and until then almost 6,500 units have been produced. Anadol A6 boat check 1975 to 1977. The Anadol boat check, which translates as the insect, was developed at the request of the Turkish army but taking into account the tourism that started to develop in Turkey. Otosan started offering it to the public. It was offered with an open body but also with gull-wing doors. In total, only a little bit over 200 units were sold to the public. Anadol A816 1981 to 1984, the last Anadol model that went into production, replaced the A2 sedan, and its design was mainly inspired by Swedish cars of the time. It used the Ford 1.6-liter engine, but sales and production were low with a little bit over 1,000 units, making Otosan decide to stop production of self-developed Anadol models and assemble Ford models instead. Prototypes. Anadol FW11 prototype 1977, designed by Marcello Gondini as a sister model of the Reliant Scimitar S70. Only 2 prototypes have been made, and it was considered by Otosan management to be too expensive to bring any profits to the company. Anadol Kagdas prototype 1979. 2 Kagdas fully functional prototypes have been built, with a steel frame and fiberglass body and powered by a Wankel engine developed in-house. However, the car proved to be too costly for the economical instability at that time, and Anadol had to stop the project of its modern car. Anadol A9 prototype 1984. The A9, designed by Bertoni for Anadol, came too late to save the brand, and it was intended as a replacement for the A8, but the production never started as Otosan decided to pull the plug on Anadol.